Welcome to Beyond the Scoreboard, the show that goes way beyond the 1.5, 1.4, whatever the number is, trillion-dollar business of sports. Boy, this was a busy week as well. 2 championships in areas that have never had one before, the Midwest and St. Louis in hockey, and all of Canada for Toronto in basketball. Women's World Cup heating up. Obviously, NBA free agency thrown into a tizzy with Kevin Durant's injury, and on and on and on. A lot of issues. We'll get to them in a minute, but if you want to see the top 15 in order, plus the 5 power of sports philanthropic issues, plus the 5 tech issues, look at our at Rick Horrow 15 to watch. Also, NBC Washington, NBCWashington.com. Subscribe to us on our Apple Podcast, Google Play, Audio Boom, Stitcher, iTunes feed, or wherever good content is, you've got it. And also, we continue to stay ahead of the trends. And if you want to know a little bit more about the business, this is the place to be. Well, a lot of issues relative to the Women's World Cup, but it impacts a lot of different places. The Women's World Cup and women's soccer in general, DC United, we've had for our Beyond the Scoreboard quarterly news magazine show this week. We've had Jason Levian and Andy Bush, who are partners. Andy Bush, really the CRO, and Jason Levian, the founding partner of DC United. And when you take a look at what the recent studies have been, it's certainly timely. MLS and SeatGeek, partners for a new in-depth study on female fans of the league, aligning with their new initiative called We Fan, which highlights what women fans are looking for from the league. Study found that close to half of MLS fans are minorities. 42% of the league's fan base comprises women. Study also found that 71% of the women say they're MLS fans because they like bonding with family and friends who are fans, and 75% of women usually attend games with family members. The We Fan campaign, created in-house, launched across social media and digital MLS websites and various SeatGeek partner clubs. And of course, it's likely no coincidence the website and campaign launch was perfectly timed for the women and soccer, the Women's World Cup in France. Women's World Cup typically has a carryover effect on women's interest in top-level soccer competitions all over the globe, as well as increased amateur participation. When you take a look at exactly the kinds of things and companies that are involved in all of this, Google celebrating the Women's World Cup tournament with a series of doodles, Google Doodles. Some of the recent homepage banners on Google's search page represents works by 6 artists of 6 different countries: Chile, Netherlands, New Zealand, Sweden, Thailand, and the U.S. Teams from each of the countries that competed the first Tuesday of the tournament. Google says the doodles portray a distinct message about what the tournament means for each artist and their country. And there's a full list of 24 artists, one for each country in the tournament. In a blog post by Google, the banner rotates around different teams and features 4 to 5 designs in one day. Having one of the largest search engines and websites in the world feature Women's World Cup content will get even more casual fans talking about the tournament, now entering its second week of play. When you look at the impact in other contexts, Forbes releases their world's highest paid athletes list, highlighting the top 100 earners from the past year. They calculated prize money, salaries, and bonuses June of last year through June 1 of this year. Endorsement estimates for some as well. Number 1, Lionel Messi, $127 million. Argentine, well ahead of fellow soccer stars Cristiano Ronaldo's $109, Neymar's $105. American quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, $89.5, Aaron Rodgers, $89.3, Canelo Alvarez, 4th with $94 million, Roger Federer, 5th. Of note, 62 of the players in this played on American-based leagues, NBA alone accounting for 35. But it also tells you how important soccer is in the world of sports. And speaking of the intersection of soccer, women, World Cup, mega events, can't have anybody better than the Octagon Worldwide EVP and Global Chief Marketing Officer, Lisa Murray. Helped grow Octagon during her 28-year tenure into the recognized global leader in sports and entertainment marketing. She's been involved in Olympics, she's been involved in the World Cup, and of course servicing incredibly diverse international brands from all over the globe. Been involved as the 2016 Women of Inspiration for Wise New York, Adweek's 2017 Most Powerful Women in Sports list, and on, giving us some incredible perspective with which to tackle this entire issue. Lisa Murray. A 28-year tenure in the business, been at the right hand, if not the tiller, of growing Octagon into the recognized global leader in sports and entertainment marketing. And we have her to give us varied perspectives on a whole bunch of things. How are you, Lisa?
I am great. Thank you for asking.
Good. Glad to have you give us some perspective on the Women's World Cup, as well as kind of every bit of what Octagon does also. Women's World Cup and the sport of soccer. The men's game is growing by leaps and bounds in the U.S., even though the men's international qualification hasn't kept up. Women's World Cup, another story. Give us the idea of how the Women's World Cup has helped grow the game of soccer every 4 years, certainly.
First of all, I'm a big fan of FIFA Women's World Cup, and with any global event, the world's eyes are upon it. And it's just natural that when every 4 years the women, especially in the United States, but throughout the world, everyone is focused on that event. The ratings are great, the competition is great, and that's just good for the sport. And it does go up and down between those 4 years, but when you look at Vancouver, when you look at LA, when you look at all the other markets where this took place, there is a definite growth, and there is a sustained growth from quadrennium to quadrennium, so you can certainly see that grow. But when it's happening, the world's eyes are on it, and it's just good for the sport.
Well, and of course, you know, from a brand activation perspective, given the treasure trove of Octagon blue chip clients, what mega events will do for activation. Give us a snapshot of how important it is for the Women's World Cup.
You know what, for any sport, but for the Women's World Cup, it's a great opportunity for brands to showcase not just for the female target audience or for their brands, but really for everybody who watches. And the great thing about Women's World Cup, it is girls, it is boys, it is families. It is not just your male or female adult that's watching it. It's truly families, and it's truly global, and it is a fabulous opportunity for any global brand to build their brand with a market and an audience that's a little bit non-traditional, to be honest, because the kids love to watch this.
How is this non-traditional relative to, let's say, the standard NBA or NFL audience?
I don't have the statistics with me, but it is a wider audience for the NBA, for the NFL. And again, remember the word global. So this is the number one sport in the world. And NBA does a great job with global audiences, and the NFL does, but this sport, call it football, call it soccer, call it whatever you want, it is truly the global sport. And so that champions in anything.
Of course, the global sport impact is increased because of the superstar nature of them. We, United States, xenophobe, have no shortage of American superstars, from Abby Wambach years ago to Alex Morgan now to Megan Rapinoe, because of her diversity in a lot of different contexts, what Visa just has done. Any specific players and stories you're particularly watching this year?
Well, I think the whole U.S. team will be exciting to watch, and I think the U.S. team plays as a group so beautifully and as a team. So I'm excited to see how the women do together. I know Julie Ertz is someone to watch, Alex Morgan is someone to watch, obviously Megan, but these women have done such a great job as individuals from Vancouver to today, that is what propels the sport. And I know you're going to ask me at some point, why isn't women's soccer more popular than it is in the United States. And I have to tell you, I am asked that question a lot, and that's a tough one to answer. And when you look at all the elements of women's soccer in the United States with the players, how good they are, the ratings, the people that watch, it's a formula that's tough to beat. And I don't know. I know it's progress since when I started in 1992. I know it's a positive story. I know it's moving forward, but I know a lot of people are going, man, why haven't we cracked the code here? And I don't have an answer.
Well, at least you're honest about it. A lot of people make it up and it never does work. And it's compounded by the fact of soccer generically in the United States. We've been waiting for the next generation to catapult it into the fourth major sport since I was growing up in the leather helmet days in the mid-'70s, and it continues to grow. The MLS certainly has been positive as well, but you have the double bump of the women sponsorship in sports piece. When is that going to kick in and how is it? And then every 4 years, there always seems to be a peak every fourth year and then building up 3 out of every 4 years. Does that ever change?
The fact that it continues to grow every 4 years?
The fact that there's such a long valley and a more intense peak, Olympic related.
No, that is the trend. That is what you see time after time. And that's true of the Olympics. It's true of the Men's World Cup. It's true of most global sports that happen every 4 years. So that is the case, and that's natural. Why wouldn't it be that way? So, and I do know, and I don't have statistics, but I do know that that sport has grown every 4 years throughout. It doesn't go back to nothing. It slowly moves forward and moves forward. I just know people want to know why isn't it the next big thing, and I think it's going to happen. Those women are too good for it not to happen.
Well, let's focus on why it's important to hear what you have to say for a minute. Obviously added to the Adweek's 2017 Most Powerful Women in Sports, honored by Wise New York as a 2016 Women of Inspiration, and on and on. I mean, you really do know what you're speaking about. And when you try to sell a female or women's sport to a corporate sponsor generally, is it any different kind of sale? Is it more for the female demographic who watches? Is it the buying power of the female in a household, which is over 120% in my household? Well, what's the biggest cause for positive hope to get more sponsors in the game?
Well, to back up just a little bit, when we talk to brands, it's about their strategy and their objectives and what they need to do for their brand. So we don't really sell a particular property to them to buy. This is more about what makes sense strategically for their business, for them to meet their objectives. And that objective could be brand awareness, it could be to sell more products, it could be to increase leads, it could be a million different things. So there is no difference for me to recommend a certain property to one brand versus another, male, female, whatever, because it has to meet their objectives. And that's just the way we work. And it could be esports, it could be anything. So we just need to make sure we understand the property and what it can offer a brand to most likely build their business. And that's really how we manage the consulting side of what we do.
Well, and the secret sauce, if I may say, is the longevity. You can mention your clients if you want, but I would tell you that as an industry evaluator, you have some of the longest standing corporate relationships in the business, and obviously you've gained the trust and you don't oversell and you have the complete confidence of these corporations who are spending large dollars based on your ability to maximize the brand awareness, etc. And it doesn't come by accident. I could ask you what your secret sauce is, but don't get too secret. But what's the key to the success?
It's listening to the clients and what is it that they need, and to be thought-provoking enough to provide the solution again, not to sound boring, but to meet those objectives. And we are very fortunate with our clients, and we are a family, and I'm big on exceeding expectations on a daily basis, and I don't care what your title is, and I don't care what you're supposed to do for a living, but we make sure we exceed the client's expectations no matter what those are. And I think the fun thing about my longevity with the company is I can think back to 1994 to my first FIFA World Cup in the United States. And the activation we did was a Polaroid camera, and I had a Pelé cardboard stand-up of him, and if someone signed up to get a new MasterCard, they could get a Polaroid photograph of Pelé next to a cardboard stand-up. So how cool, I mean, now you're doing AR and this and that and online, and so the activation of what we do on site, although we still have some big shrimp here and there, is so different and so cool. And to have the same clients all that time, and to see how we've grown with our activation and how we measure and how we plan and where we spend is quite an honor.
I think I've got the exact idea for one of your big-time clients' Christmas dinners, which is a VR, AR view of Lisa Murray in 1994 with a cardboard cutout of Pele standing there waiting for the next autograph. What do you think?
I got it.
That's a deal. We got it. Well, let's finish with a couple of things that are World Cup related, but they also impact major events. Obviously, France expecting a lot. They're wrapping a number of tourist-related events in. I know they've had some ticket snafus with FIFA, which hopefully becomes a small story, not a big story. But what do you think ultimately the economic and social impact will be on France of having a successful World Cup over a month?
Well, I know the economic impact for Canada was $500 million US dollars, I think. So any global event is going to be good for the country. And you hope that it's good for the country, not for those 30 days, but when you leave. France is a fabulous country, and I'm excited to go back. And I remember World Cup '98, and I don't have a favorite World Cup because I love them all. But France will do a beautiful job of hosting the world for this event. But the economic impact will be terrific. It was for Canada, and it will be for all the other events. And you talk about snafus. There are always little snafus. There are always little snafus, but it all turned out great. The fans love it. The brands love it. The people who watch it on television or wherever they watch it love it. So it will be a great event. It will be a great competition.
As global as you are, and again, this is primarily for an international audience, though some in America, and I assume that in your global travels, the idea of bidding on mega events successfully and doing them right and not going over budget and leaving appropriate legacies behind is not an outdated concept. People around the globe are still interested in bringing these events to their regions, no?
Countries are responsible. Yeah, I mean, the bidding process is long and arduous, but I do think it's worthwhile if it's managed correctly.
Yeah, clearly, and that's the big if, and a lot of people are doing it now, and there was a gap a while ago, but clearly not anymore. Finally, the idea of mega events in North America, soccer related. We have the Canada, Mexico, U.S. Men's World Cup in 2026. We have the Olympics 2 years later. Hopefully a Women's World Cup comes to the States after that at some point down the road. All of these events really good for the country. Kind of, again, a key bit of advice for those who are involved in bidding, managing, implementing, and pulling off these events? What's your big advice?
Well, I think it's great, obviously. So excited for it to come back to the Americas, the World Cup. And 1994, again, was unbelievable. It's going to be even better. And it just brings the the America's fan closer to the action, and it just will give it such a bump. And I know this country will exceed everybody's expectations. It's going to be beautifully managed. FIFA will do a great job. So that's just a win-win.
And the whole thing is a win-win, and you could tell from Lisa Murray's perspective on all this that mega events and management and consulting and corporate dollars with a trillion-dollar sports business, good hands, certainly an octagon. Lisa Murray, thanks a lot. Speak with you soon. Rick Horrow. Well, Lisa Murray talks about brands, and coming out of this, Amazon, the world's most valuable brand, according to the 2019 Brand Z Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands ranking. Other brands in the top 10, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Visa, Facebook, Alibaba, Tencent, McDonald's, and AT&T. Amazon moved up from the number 3 spot in 2018, a broad value of $316 billion, a 52% change, while Apple held fast to number 2. In related news, according to Recode, Bond Capital Partners Mary Meeker released her annual Internet Trends report at a code conference in Scottsdale. Some data points: 51% of the world, 3.8 billion people use the internet, up from 49% last year. Internet ad spending in the U.S. up 22% in 2018. Most of the spending still on Google and Facebook, but companies like Amazon and Twitter are getting a growing share. And the number of interactive gamers worldwide grew 6% to 2.4 billion people last year, as games like Fortnite became the new social media. Gaming and billions in advertising, certainly sports is clearly important to these regular and annual conversations. Hey, summer. Let's play golf. Let's talk about golf. Gary Woodland, not on the highest paid list from Forbes, but he's going to be. A little over $25 million in total PGA Tour earnings. He doesn't breathe the rare air of the Forbes elite, but on Sunday, he joined the prestigious club of golf's major champions, 119th U.S. Open, $2.25 million for the win, but denying Brooks Koepka his place in history. It's really a popular win for this man, and likely Woodland more than ever. His sponsors, including Puma, Volition Collection, benefiting Folds of Honor, which provides for spouses and children of fallen soldiers, Wilson, NetJets, and CDW, the PGA Tour's official tech partner since 2008. So here's a guy who's won, a very likable guy. Look for more from the boardroom on the endorsement front in the very, very, very near future. Let's talk more golf. The LPGA and Group 1001 announced a new LPGA Tour event in Boca Raton. January 20 to 26 at the Boca Rio Golf Club. Thrilled to support women's professional golf and provide a platform for the sport's best to compete and showcase their talents, said Dan Towers, CEO of Group 1001. I'd like to thank our good friends at Group 1001 and Boca Rio Golf Club for the support of the LPGA and having a world-class event in South Florida, said Mike Wan, the LPGA commissioner. The inaugural Gamebridge LPGA at Boca Rio, 108 players, $2 million purse, 72 holes of play. The new event will be one of 2 LPGA Tour tournaments held in Florida in 2020. The other one, the Diamond Resorts Tournament of Champions, on January 15 to 19 in Disney's Lake Buena Vista, kicking off the season. The Sunshine State will also bookend the LPGA season, with the year culminating with the CME Group Tour Championship in Naples in November. Finally, golf's other international showcase, the Ryder Cup, Le Golf National in Paris, and the European triumph over the U.S. $266 million in economic impact, almost double the $134 million in Scotland for Glen Eagles in 2014. 270,000 fans from 90 different countries turning out to see Europe's victory. And as the world now turns its attention to the Open at Championship at Royal Portrush, it's interesting to note that last year's Open at Carnoustie boosted the Scottish economy by $152 million. More on the way. Can't wait for our next major. We just finished one. Well, let's talk basketball for a second. Kevin Durant likely misses the next season after injuring his Achilles during Game 5 of the NBA Finals, throwing NBA free agency even into more chaos. And, of course, the bigger picture question emerges, which is which teams and star players can afford to wait on him. Knicks, Clippers, Nets, outside the Warriors. And what Durant decides to do will obviously impact what other players like Kyrie Irving and Kawhi Leonard decide to do. Durant can choose to opt out in the final year with the Warriors at $31.5 million, become a free agent in 2020. Durant's other suitors now have to calculate whether he's still worth offering the max to over 4 years, even if he might not play for the first year. Durant's future also has medical undercurrents. It'll impact how other athletes manage devastating injuries like Achilles tears, and how companies like Embody, whose mission it is to treat such injuries via technology, and the global funding of some of these bigger companies and smaller companies also that underwrite NBA teams, as well as medical startups. Have to see, it is a big, big issue. When you think about the NBA, it deals with a lot of situations, not just these long-term, but how about merchandising? As soon as the final buzzer sounded on the last game of the NBA Finals, the NBA and sportswear manufacturer New Era were shooting to score by offering instant sales of championship gear on Instagram, part of a growing effort to turn sports highlights, as well as a social media posts of celebrities, influencers, and retail brands into quote-unquote shoppable moments. The minute the Raptors clinched their first championship, Toronto offered the gear on its Instagram account at NBA. The Raptors championship hat and T-shirt by New Era offered exclusively on Instagram for the first 24 hours. And online sales through NBAstore.com eclipsed the previous record by 80%. Good for them. We just see this as obviously the tip of the iceberg. Let's talk NFL. We're not far away from of camp's opening, certainly the voluntary workouts going on. NFL and Players Association have initiated a preliminary talk schedule on new collective bargaining agreement issues. While the existing CBA doesn't expire until after 2020, Pro Football Talk reported that the NFL wants a deal in place before the start of 2019. Players would like to address several concerns in the next CBA, including limits on Roger Goodell's authority, player conduct cases, increased roster sizes, improved medical benefits, and eliminating marijuana from the league's banned substances list. Definitely a deal to be made, so the NFL is so healthy financially, neither side's probably going to risk the $15 billion in revenue, more than 50% more than the next sports league, baseball. Meeting a self-imposed September 1 deadline would ensure the league's 100th anniversary season celebrated without the distraction of labor negotiations, and guaranteed long-term labor peace would allow the NFL to begin negotiating its next round of broadcast rights deals, which is also very, 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 very important. Finally, baseball. MLB announced that the Cardinals will host the Cubs in the rivalry in London in 2020, June 13-14 to be precise. Bill DeWitt, the Cardinals chairman and chief executive, said, "I have no doubt that passionate sports fans in London will love these games and will look forward to creating a Cardinals fan base overseas." And this year, Taco Bell exporting its Steal a Taco promotion to Europe for the two-game Red Sox-Yankees series in London on June 29 and 30. Successful stolen base in either game will win fans in the UK a free taco on July 4 from 2 to 6 p.m. local time at any of the 38 UK Taco Bell locations. Baseball clearly no longer an American pastime, nor is taco eating an American pastime. Finally, charitably, Prince Harry and MLB teamed up before this year's London series, sponsoring as part of an official charity partner of MLB. The partnership been announced ahead of the first foray into London and between the Yankees and the Red Sox on June 29 and 30. And according to the London Mirror, the Invictus Games Foundation is an international charity that oversees the development of the Invictus Games, the multi-sport event created by the Duke of Sussex. And in addition to bringing America's pastime to the UK, the Invictus Games Foundation has a team participating in London's Softball 60, the social softball series built for the city and targeted to introduce the sport to new audiences. So we're looking at the end of June and July this year and next as time for London to carry the ball in baseball, not just in other sports. We'd like to thank Lisa Murray for adding her real perspective on Women's World Cup as it relates to branding, money, and all things international. We'd like to thank Dan Martin, Tanner Simpkins, and Reed Weber for helping to put this together. And most importantly, we'd like to thank you for listening and joining us this week as well as next time when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.